Welcome to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey, this is Pam Perry. So what we're going to talk about today is for speakers. If you are a speaker, and what I want to say is that it is always good to make sales calls. I am not against making sales calls, but I will tell you this. One of the best ways to close sales is when people call you, when they seek you out and they are looking for you, looking for your expertise. So when someone calls, they have an interest, they have heard about you, maybe they found you online via Google, and they call you, they send an email, and they're doing an inquiry. They're shopping. They're in that mode. That's a good thing, because now at this point, you have the advantage. And so we want to talk about, how do you get that advantage? How do you get that competitive advantage so that you can get the phone to ring for the people to call you? That is what publicity does, because they've seen you. They maybe read about you in a magazine, saw the front page about you in the newspaper, television. They saw you on TV. They've seen you in magazines. They saw you on the cover of Speakers Magazine. They've heard of you, maybe word of mouth. That is obviously the best way versus I'm making sales calls. And now you sound like a peddler, right? Hey, you hire any speakers? Hey, you need any speakers? Hey, can you hire me? Hey, can I book? Hey, that you don't want to be in that mode. And also too, your energy just feels like, now I feel like I'm begging or peddling. So when you have someone that is going to call you on the other end or send you an email and they're just having a question, what are some of the first questions that they're going to ask? And you have to be prepared for that. So just give you really quick. So one of the things, if someone sends a form in and they want to work with me, Pam Perry, they go to pamperrypr.com, they fill out a form, they have some interest. And so we get on the call, they fill out the form and it guides the call. And so the questions are really about them, about what it is, what they're looking for, what are the problems, because every speaker is booked to solve a problem. Yes, I know we want to give inspiration, motivation, and we just want to tell the world, kumbaya, right? Like everything is wonderful, but they want you to solve a problem. So when they've done their Google search or they read something or they heard something about you, one of the main things is that they are contacting you because they have a problem and they believe you can solve it. That conversation should be key. Your language needs to be around that. No, you don't have to tell them how wonderful you are. You don't have to tell them what you've spoke at. And you don't even have to talk price at this point, about how much you usually get paid. They don't care about that. They want to know if you can solve their problem. What is it that people in their organization are complaining about? They want to know. What kind of things that you can actually bring to them. Maybe once, maybe over a series, maybe something else. So anyway, the whole point of it is to make sure that your language lines up with the problem that they're seeking to solve. And that's only from after they send in the email. And this is where systems come in. And I teach that also too in my Branding Accelerator course. But you have to have systems set up so that if you do get the big hit, an influx of different calls, that you have a system. So we're just saying that, okay, you have a system. So how do you get people to call you? One, I said publicity. Two, obviously one of the main things is to have a book. A book can go where you can't go. Because they can only, you can only speak at so many places, right? You're virtual, whatever, but you need to have some kind of, I guess you say, we call it like a large business card that goes where you don't go. Meaning that the book should coincide with should coincide with what you speak about. So not some random book and not a journal, not but a really book that packages you as a go-to expert, that you're the person, that the person's like, wow, this book is really good. I know, I bet you they really, really could solve our problem because of this book. And that's where you want to have that. You want to definitely have a book, or you can have a course. If they've seen you in publicity, say you're booked on newspapers, magazines, radio, and television, or even if they've heard you on a podcast, when they go to your website, maybe you're offering some online courses. So a lot of speakers miss this part. A lot of my branding accelerators are doing the courses now. So shout out to Yolanda. She's getting her course together for really helping people about the business of voiceovers. So I talked with her today and she's going to have the course together. It's going to be 4 modules. So if someone wants to get into the voiceover business, she can mentor you. That is her course. You can also hire her as a speaker and also obviously hire her as a voiceover. And she has a book. She has all of the pieces together. So one of the main things I want to make sure that people don't sleep on, like, oh, I got to get a book, got to get a book. The book is, yes, you can make money from the book, but it's to get people to call you. You want those inbound calls instead of outbound. You want the inbound calls, because the inbound calls, 90% of them probably are going to buy with you if you don't say anything stupid. you know, if you say the right things, and really I can help guide you in my Ready Set Go Speak program on how to really, the questions that you need to ask in when you do have a call on there. The other thing, you want to make sure that whether you have online courses or you do webinars, and you do webinars pretty frequently. I also say podcasts. So whether you like to do a webinar where you're teaching with the PowerPoint, depending on what your area's expertise is, or a podcast, depending on what it is, all of that should line up with the problem that you solve for someone, so they can hear you, they can understand you better. They know that you're the go-to person. So rather than sending out a bunch of calling people all day, right? You're calling people all day. You are doing your content creation. You are the expert in your field, and you're just really showcasing that. You're showcasing it through a webinar. You're showcasing it through a podcast. This is a podcast that I do. It's found in Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to it, Spotify. I do want to say, if you are listening, please leave a review. That also helps the podcast be found for those people who are looking for PR and marketing tips as a speaker. The other thing, too, you want to make sure that you're doing when you want to be found is that you want to make sure that people who you're coaching with, people that you're consulting with, that they know that you are a speaker for hire. Yes, they do, that you are a speaker for hire, but you also want to make sure that they know how to refer you. So maybe give them a book. There's always a circle influence, right? Word of mouth is the best thing. So one of the main things you want to do is like maybe give them an ebook and say, hey, if you know of anyone that's interested in this topic, here's my book. And of course, obviously, you're going to have a one sheet and all that kind of thing. But sometimes by giving someone a one sheet, they can't really get the entire breadth of you. So you maybe give them the ebook or something like that, or even a tips booklet. I have a client that did a tips booklet like this. It's really like a tips booklet that talks about leadership. And it's just little tips about how to be a better leader, so something like that. Give people some tools they can work with. Give me something they can work with. So that's something as well. People who you coach, people who you consult with, let them know that you're for hire. It may be for their organization or another organization that is in their sphere of influence, because everybody has a sphere of influence, and then those people will be the people that, if your ideal customer that you're working with, your client and your coaching client, consulting client, they obviously have people that will mirror them, and so that will be pretty close to the ideal client. And then the other thing, like I said, is making sure that you're having your funnel set up, that you have copywriting that is on point, that speaks to, doesn't have to be like, oh, like this old slick copy, but speaks to the pain points and the problems that whoever's going to hire you. That's really it. And so people are just all stressed out, like, oh, I don't know how to do the SEO keywords in my copy, or I don't know how to, write like you're talking to someone sitting across the table with your ideal customer. It's like, okay, I'm the expert. What is your problem? To ask, they'll tell you, and that's the language that you use in your copy. That's why it helps to always make sure we have these ideas in our heads what we think our ideal client wants, but until you get on the phone with them and have a conversation, you really don't know. You don't really know what they're buying. You assume. So the only way is to poll people, to talk to people, have these sales conversations when they call you after they've seen your publicity in radio, TV, and print, and you listen to the podcast. They've seen you in the magazines. They've seen, those are the people where you get the inbound calls. So many of the speakers that I work with, I said, well, how did you get that speaking gig? Oh, well, they saw me or they heard me. Oh, how did you get that speaking gig? Oh, well, and I'm not even talking about social media and this whole thing about social media, like I got to keep posting this and that. The people that are really hiring you, they don't probably, who's probably watching social media? I'll just say this right here. The people probably watching social media are probably your competitors, not the people that want to hire you. Of course, yes, obviously they'll see some things as well, but for the most part, go about doing what you do in traditional media. That holds more weight. When you see someone who's been in the business section of their magazine in their county or the newspaper, that holds more weight because they know it's not necessarily something that you put on and that you had to think up and write it out. It's not a social media post, a TikTok, a reel, or any of that. Now, yes, it can probably work for a period of time, but I'm thinking that's probably going to wear out just like all the social media rolls out and it's like on to the new thing. So traditional media, I've been a publicist for 3 decades. And so one of the things is it's never going on the style. People are always going to need publicists. People are always going to need publicity. Knowing how to pitch the media is really, really key. Listen to the podcast. I think probably the last 2 or 3 talks about, I had a producer on from MSNBC. I had a former editor from Black Enterprise, and they'll talk about what makes a good story, how to pitch the media. And it's a lot less stressful than trying to figure out what to put on Instagram or how to do a reel, how to work TikTok. I mean, it's your story. It's not a gimmick. And you just need to know how to tell it well. So the last thing I'm just going to say is like how to really keep people coming to you is really getting up on some of those volunteer things, speaking forward, even something as simple as speaking up on Clubhouse as well, your area of expertise. People will come to you when they hear you on a consistent basis. And one of the things too, this is just a little secret, that whatever your area of expertise is, make sure I go over here. Whatever your area of expertise is, you want to make sure that their trade association, hey there. Oh, good. There you go. Hi, Maurice Gardner. One of the things you want to do is write for that trade association's newsletter. Hey, write for them because listen, they're strapped for people. And if you're an expert in the area of that association, say it's, I don't know, an association could be, I'm just thinking for me, I'm a part of like a lot of PR associations, right? And so they have monthly newsletters for their members. So what could I write about? I could write about what are some of the great ways of how to get more clients in PR, whatever it is. So the thing of it is, every association is an association for everything. There's a women's part of the association. There could be the Black part of the association and just a general association. But they all are organizations that are looking for expertise articles. By being in there and by having content, you probably have a book. You can take excerpts from your book and give it to the association for free. And that circulates you around in that association as an expert. That's one of the great things. Hey, Diamond, how are you? So that is one of the main things. I just want to say that you do want to make sure that you're doing that and really keep the focus on the main thing as the main thing. And the main thing is that you're the expert. You're the go-to expert. Why? Because people are going to you because you're putting that first. You are solving problems for people that you're going to speak for. You're solving problems for the people you coach and consult with. They're really now your ambassadors, and they're telling other people about what you do. Other people are hiring you and bringing you in, and you're getting on the phone with people. And then when you're having that guided conversation with them, and for the most part, they're not asking you like how much that costs. If they do start talking about like how much you cost, really just say, well, what is it the problem is? Guide them back to why they called you in the first place. You're not Walmart, right? You're they call you because you're the go-to expert. So obviously you're calling Nordstrom or Neiman Marcus, right? So why you calling, you doing a price check? Like, loud line 5, like how much is this? That's not why they called you. You get better quality of people who are serious when you have inbound calls. And I just want to say PR will help you get more inbound. So with that, my program, Ready, Set, Go, Speak, is a membership program. You could stay in it for 3 months. You could stay in for 6 months. You could stay in it for a year. I've had people who've been in it for a year, roughly about a year because it's not a year old. And they are learning continually in the program how to really pitch the media, which is a really key. They learn what to say, who to say, how to find people. I give them media leads. There's media people in there that are doing interviews with that are not here on the podcast. They're like a little secret vault. There is a vault in there as well. So I invite you to go to readysetgospeak.com, take a look at it, see the testimonials there, and invite you, if you do want to become that go-to expert, it really will help you shape how that looks. Because a speaker knows what they know, but they don't know really like the business of speaking, of how to really position themselves and promote and get publicity. And that's what I do. So if you talk about what someone is an expert in, hey there, hey Linda, one of the things that I'm expert in is really helping people get out there and get known. Hence the name of the podcast, right? So with that, it's a short, sweet time, but I just want to make sure that you're keeping the main thing. And that is so that you are getting those inbound calls as a speaker and not feeling like you're hustling up. And I just want to say one last thing: never pay to speak unless you're going to get a great ROI. Okay, and that's for you to determine. Maybe that's a show for another day. We can talk about that, how people are paying. People are like, that's a thing? Yeah, that's a thing today. That's a whole nother little hustle that people are doing. Don't fall for it, okay? Don't fall for it. So I'm Pam Perry. I'm going to keep telling you the truth. Listen to the podcast every week. Share it, rate it, listen to it, subscribe, and make sure that you go to pamperrypr.com and you can actually get the tips as well of what we'll be talking about in terms of PR and marketing and branding. I send those out every single week. I send out the best stuff on my email. So you make sure you want to get in there. So with that, I will talk with you later. Have a great one. God bless.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where you help you shine like a superstar.